Mount Rushmore, the famous monument known all over the world with the founding fathers carved into the side of a mountain. Although unknown to most people, there's actually a secret time capsule hidden behind George Washington's head. The conception of the monument came back all the way in the 1920s when the United States government was seeking ways to attract tourism to the Black Hills in South Dakota. It was South Dakota's state historian Dwayne Robinson who had the ingenious idea of sculpting several giant natural granite pillars into the shape of the historic heroes of the West. After securing federal approval and funding, the project was set to begin. Gutzon Borglum, a famous American artist, was the one commissioned to lead the massive project. His team of over 400 workers began tirelessly working on the enormous heads, each standing over 60 feet tall. 500,000 tons of granite were removed with dynamite and by hand from the rock face to accomplish this project. It's one of the most ambitious projects the United States government has ever undertaken, with a total cost of over $1 billion and spanning over 14 years. Impressively, it was accomplished with no reported casualties, a staggering feat for the time period. Today, Mount Rushmore is visited by over 2 million people every year, more than double that of South Dakota's population itself. The 4 presidents carved into the rock were chosen to represent the nation's birth, growth, development, and preservation. The founding fathers chosen were the faces of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, and Thomas Jefferson. Although, like we alluded to earlier, restricted from public access and hidden behind the head of George Washington, a time capsule sits undisturbed for future generations or otherworldly entities to find. Mount Rushmore was carved into granite rock. The erosion caused by natural phenomena is estimated to be roughly about 1 inch every 10,000 years. With the noses on the monument being about 240 inches long, it's estimated that it would take roughly 2.4 million years before the details of Mount Rushmore get completely erased from history. Inspired by the mystery of the Egyptian pyramids and the other man-made wonders of the world, Borglum was concerned with leaving 4 faces carved into a cliff without any context. He wanted to make sure that future civilizations would be able to understand the monument even if humankind was long erased from memory. And so, his plan was to create a secret time capsule within the monument. He envisioned a grand chamber with an entrance marked with a huge bald eagle, with a wingspan of 38 feet. Inside the hall, you would find bronze and glass cabinets containing important historical documents such as the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. There was to be busts of the most famous Americans and many artifacts commemorating the United States' contribution in the world of science, industry, and the arts. Construction of the chamber began in 1938 with workers blasting a 70-foot-long cavern using dynamite. Unfortunately, the government caught wind of this and stepped in. They mandated Borglum to finish completion of the enormous carvings of Mount Rushmore before getting sidetracked with his time capsule project. But before he was able to finish, he died unexpectedly of a heart attack in 1941. The project was then handed over to his son, who was able to put the finishing touches on the founding fathers' faces. But the Hall of Records and the time capsule project was abandoned. With the onset of World War II, funds for the project had been diverted to more pressing matters. And so the unfinished hall sat empty and untouched for decades. That is, until 1998, when the plan was miraculously resurrected by the American government. Although they deviated from the initial plans, the essence of the time capsule still held firm. Inside the chamber, they installed a repository consisting of a wooden box laying inside a titanium vault covered by a half-ton granite capstone. Inside the vault are 16 porcelain panels containing inscriptions that detail the story of how Mount Rushmore came to be, as well as the reasons for selecting the presidents depicted and a short story of the United States. Initially, an 800-foot-tall stairway was planned to be built in order to let visitors inside the chamber, but this was eventually scrapped. It was decided that this room was not intended for the general public, but as a time capsule for people of the distant future, or even otherworldly species to find, just as the original sculpture had envisioned. To commemorate Borglum, his words were etched on the vault's capstone. Let us place there, carved high as close to heaven as we can, the words of our leaders and their faces to show posterity what manner of men they were. Then breathe a prayer that these records will endure until the winds and the rains alone shall wear them away. With that, we will conclude today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.